I stand before you today to unravel the epic tale of the Fulani migration to Nigeria. This momentous movement of people spanning centuries would reshape the cultural and political landscape of West Africa. As we delve into this fascinating chapter of history, we'll explore how a group of pastoralists became influential figures in a land far from their ancestral home. The story of the Fulani migration begins in the 11th century in the lush grasslands of Senegambia. These skilled pastoralists, known for their cattle-herding prowess, found themselves driven by the quest for greener pastures and the promise of peaceful coexistence with other peoples. Slowly but surely, the Fulani made their way across the Sahel, that vast stretch of semi-arid land south of the Sahara. This arduous trek would test their resilience and adaptability. One can only imagine the challenges they faced: scorching heat, unpredictable rainfall, and the constant search for water and pasture. By the 14th century, the vanguard of Fulani migrants had reached the savanna belt of West Africa, pushing into the areas we now know as northern Nigeria. As the Fulani arrived in northern Nigeria, they encountered established societies in towns like Katsina, Gobir, and Kano. The Fulani presented themselves not merely as skilled herders, but as bearers of moral knowledge and ethical reform. They positioned themselves as scholars and spiritual guides. Consider the impact of this strategy, a minority group becoming the moral compass for entire communities. The Fulani migration and subsequent ideological expansion would prove to be a turning point in the history of northern Nigeria. Their influence on the cultural, religious and political landscape of the region cannot be overstated. As we reflect on this remarkable journey, we're reminded of the power of ideas to shape societies and the enduring impact of cultural exchange in human history. The Fulani story serves as a testament to the profound changes that can occur when people move not just across lands, but across minds. West Africa. Here, in the vast savannas and thriving trade routes, two great peoples were about to intertwine their destinies. The Hausa, with their established kingdoms and vibrant culture, and the Fulani, nomadic herdsmen with a thirst for knowledge and influence. This is not just a story of migration, but a tale of strategic settlement that would reshape the political and cultural landscape of an entire region. The 1400s, a period of great change in West Africa. The Fulani, traditionally nomadic pastoralists, began to settle more permanently in Hausa lands. The Fulani brought with them not just their herds, but a wealth of knowledge and a keen understanding of power dynamics. They saw in the Hausa kingdoms a chance to expand their influence beyond the pastoral life. With their literacy in Arabic and deep understanding of Islamic law and theology, the Fulani positioned themselves as valuable assets to the Hausa rulers. Now, the Fulani method of gaining influence was subtle yet profound. Through education, they shaped the minds of future leaders. As judicial advisors, they influenced the interpretation and application of laws. And as spiritual guides, they slowly reshaped the religious landscape. This multifaceted approach allowed them to embed themselves deeply into the political and cultural fabric of Hausa society. But perhaps their most powerful tool was their ideology. The Fulani presented themselves as reformers, advocates for a return to justice, purity and truth. This message resonated with many, subtly challenging the legitimacy of the indigenous rulers. As we reflect on this period of strategic settlement and influence, we see the seeds of profound change being sown. The Fulani's gradual integration and rise to power would ultimately lead to the Fulani-led jihad of 1804, forever altering the political landscape of West Africa. Their legacy serves as a powerful reminder of how cultural influence, education and ideology can shape the course of history, often more profoundly than military conflict.
I've always been fascinated by the hidden stories behind major historical events. Today we're diving into one such story, the Sokoto conflict of 1804 to 1808. This wasn't just any uprising. It was a revolution that reshaped West Africa, led by a charismatic scholar named Ousmane Dan Fodio. Let's start with our main character, Ousmane Dan Fodio. He wasn't your typical revolutionary leader. In 1802, King Yunfa of Gobir, feeling threatened by Dan Fodio's growing influence, decided to expel him from the kingdom. On February 21st, 1804, he made a bold move. He declared a revolution, framing it as a moral duty to correct corrupt leadership and restore order. In 1805, Fulani-led militias captured Kebbi and Zamfara. What started as a call for moral reform was rapidly turning into a military campaign. The success of these early conquests emboldened Dan Fodio and his followers, setting the stage for even greater expansion. As we move into 1806 and 1807, the revolution picked up even more steam. Major Hausa cities fell to Dan Fodio's forces. Kano and Katsina, both significant centers of power and commerce. Then in 1808, Zaria fell. With these conquests, the revolution had achieved decisive military success. But what did this mean for the region? Native rulers were overthrown and replaced with loyal Fulani leaders. The message of reform provided justification for war, land seizure, and control over trade and governance. It's a classic case of how revolutions, even those with noble intentions, can lead to dramatic shifts in power and social structure. The Sokoto conflict of 1804 to 1808 was more than just a series of battles. It was a turning point that reshaped the political and social landscape of West Africa. Ousmane Dan Fodio's revolution, while rooted in ideas of moral reform, ultimately led to the establishment of the Sokoto Caliphate, one of the largest empires in Africa at the time.
I've always been captivated by the complexities of African history, and today we're exploring a chapter that's as nuanced as it is significant. The year is 1809, and in northern Nigeria, a new power is rising. This is the story of the Sokoto Caliphate, an empire that would reshape the region's political and social landscape for generations to come. At the heart of this empire-building story is Ousmane Dan Fodio, a charismatic religious and political leader who led what became known as the Fulani Jihad. Dan Fodio's vision was grand: to establish a centralized Fulani-led empire across northern Nigeria, with Sokoto as its spiritual and administrative center. But he didn't do it alone. His brother Abdullahi was given control of Gwandu, creating a dual power structure at the empire's core. The Sokoto leadership appointed Fulani governors to major cities like Kano, Katsina, Zaria, and Bauchi. This network of loyal administrators helped maintain Fulani control over the conquered peoples and ensured the empire's policies were implemented across the region. The mission of the Sokoto Caliphate was clear: to institutionalize Fulani leadership and establish a new social hierarchy. On paper, it was about promoting justice and morality, reforming society according to Islamic principles. The reality of governance under the Sokoto Caliphate often diverged from its lofty ideals. Despite claims of justice and morality, the empire's rule was marked by heavy taxation, putting significant burdens on the conquered peoples. Local customs and traditions, many of which had existed for centuries, were suppressed in favor of the empire's interpretation of Islamic law. Perhaps most paradoxically, while the caliphate claimed to be establishing a more just society, practices of servitude continued. The very system that the empire's founders had criticized was in many ways perpetuated under their rule. As we reflect on the Sokoto Caliphate, we're left with a complex legacy. It was a remarkable feat of empire building, unifying a vast region under centralized rule, yet it also reinforced Fulani political supremacy over conquered peoples, often at the expense of local autonomy and traditions. The story of Sokoto reminds us that the gap between ideals and reality in governance is often wide, and the consequences of that gap can echo through history.